what's up, Patriots? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have with us Mr. Bob Machetta, and I'm just going to ask him a few different questions about his military career. So what made you decide that you wanted to join the military?
I graduated from college in 1970, and it was the first year of the lottery system that the government had gone to instead of draft system. And I thought that I had a really good number in the low 300s. What I failed to realize at the time was that there was very few people of the right age to be drawn into the lottery in the middle of the country. So the lottery on the east-west coast was gone into high numbers. In college, part of my studies was history, and I felt that if you're going to go into a war, you got to go into a war to win. And we weren't doing that in Vietnam. We were not going across the parallel line. And so I figured, okay, I don't want to go in the Army. I'll enlist in the Air Force. So I enlisted for 4 years, and I was going to get out and try and get a coaching job and teaching job then. But unfortunately, that was when the oil embargo hit. So I made a decision, or I had to make a decision, whether to get out, live with my parents and look for a job at the time, or stay in the military. So my decision was to stay in the military, to advance my career as much as possible, and do 20 years, and then maybe go into coaching or something else of that nature.
So when you decided that you wanted to join the Air Force, what was the recruiting process like for you?
I initially wanted to become a helicopter pilot, but I didn't have the right credentials to do that. Most of the people that went into helicopter flying had private lessons to their credit. So I took an aptitude test, and the aptitude test said you should be a security police officer, and that's what they put me in for my entire career.
So as a security police officer, what did an average day look like for you?
Well, initially, I was sent, they call it direct duty assignments, DDA, from basic training to Carswell Air Force Base. Because I had my degree, they put me into the training section for the first couple of months there to train the follow-on students that were coming from basic training. But when I got orders to go to England, they put me out on the flat line, and the flat line schedule was 3 days, 3 swings, 3 mids, and then 3 days off. Interesting thing about that was I wanted to be a really sharp troop, so I polished my boots, spit shine them as much as possible. And then my first day on the flat line, I looked down at my boots, and my polish was just actually melting off of my boots at 106-degree temperature at Carswell Air Force Base in Texas.
Wow.
Yeah, it was hot.
That's crazy. So did you get to travel at all in the military?
Well, in England, we did a little travel down to Felixstowe and down to London, Ipswich, places like that. They also had a program called the Airman Exchange Program with Aviano Air Force Base in Italy. And I heard about that, and so I boned up and studied they call it the Stars and Stripes newspaper, and they ask you all the questions in the Stars and Stripes newspaper, which is about 8 pages long. And I guess because I had just got out of college, I had good study habits, literally memorized everything on every page. So I got to go to Aviano, Italy. And it was an interesting experience because they took us up on a mountainside and went to a chalet where they served us like a 15-course meal from soup to nuts all the way over there. I also was able to buy some alabaster and send it back to my sister, my parents, and some friends. But that didn't get to go to Venice or Rome, anything like that. It was just in the immediate area of Aviano.
So you mentioned that you went to England. Do you have any stories of your time in England?
New Year's Eve, we went down to Trafalgar Square, pretty much like Times Square back in the States, but there they had a gigantic, not a pool, but a fountain area, and a lot of inebriated men and women were in there dancing and swimming and that. One of our favorite things when we did travel to Felixstowe or Ipswich or even down to London, on the way back, there was this beat up, ratty, we used to call them roach coaches. It's just a place where you can pick up fish and chips. And it was just the best fish and chips you could ever find anywhere. Ever since my wife and I were married, every time we try to find an Irish pub to find fish and chips, in my mind, it just doesn't equate to the fish and chips that we had there in England.
So you've been to England and Italy. What other countries were you able to go and visit while you were in the military?
After my wife and I were married, I joint spouse to her. She was stationed in Germany, and I was still back in the States, and I got a joint spouse to her. While we were there, we got to go to Austria, Switzerland, and France. In Strasbourg, France, we got to see this huge glockenspiel where the little guys come out and bells are hitting and whistles are going off and everything. It was a good time for testing. Oh, we tried testing the champagne there and really didn't like it that much. But after my wife got out and came back to Germany as a joint spouse to me because I had a longer commitment over there, we went to the Rhine River and to a different castle and a different vineyard on a Saturday and Sunday for like 12 weeks in a row. And that's where me in particular became very attached to Oslinger wines, the white wines that they had there. It was really, really, really good.
That's really cool. So if you could, would you join the military again?
Yes, I would. Like I said, I had a really great time as a single guy before I got married. Even after I got married, I had a good time too. It was enlightening, and there was a purpose for us to do what we did. You know, to keep America free and face down our enemies and have our way of life go on the way it is now.
So is there anything else that you want to let people know, whether it's just about your military career some more, or if it's about them wanting to join the military? Is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah, if you're seriously about joining the military, get your education so you can come in as a commissioned officer. There's definitely a difference in pay. I enjoyed my time as enlisted because you're competing against your fellow man. They had tests for knowledge and history besides your airman performance reports. All that was combined, and that's how you got promoted. Whereas on the commissioner's side, it was a lot of politics. You got your job done, and you got a good performance report there too. But it was a lot of politics on that. Whereas when I was in England, or excuse me, when I was in Germany at Sembach Air Base, I was the NCOIC, non-commissioned officer in charge of training. I would have to go over to the civilian personnel office and combined, I can't think of that, CVPO. And there was a guy over there that said, you know, it takes 12 years to become a tech sergeant. And I said, no, I'm going to have to do it faster than that. And I did. I got to be a tech sergeant 7.5 years, started on at 8.5 years, and then was able to get commissioned at 9.5 years.
That's really cool. I think that's all I have for you. Thank you for taking time to do this interview, and also thank you for your service.
It was my pleasure. Thanks, Pandora.